and welcome to episode 12 of Loot Level Chat, the podcast from lootlevelchill.com. My name's Adam Cook, and I'm joined by Steve Chambers and Mick Fraser. Hello, boys.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm ready to do some chatting.
Well, it is. You say that. We are going to have a different podcast. A few weeks ago, we did an episode like this, and this is most anticipated part 2 because, once again, we are embargoed up the wazoo, as they say. Mm-hmm. That is a very common phrase, Mick, isn't it? Embargoed up the wazoo.
It is here, mate, yes.
There's nothing we can talk about. Well, we could just talk about Doom a bit more. Or,
yeah,
you know.
And I don't really get bored of talking about Doom for Dark Ages. But
do appreciate that for an audience, it might
the
be...
The world moves on, man.
Mm-hmm.
On a weekly basis, doesn't it just? So we're going to do another bit of looking at our most anticipated games because we had a list for the other week. Say 2 weeks ago, I think it will be at this point. We didn't get to some of these, so we're going to get to some of them this week, and we're going to start off with our most anticipated of 2025, part 2. With a game I don't think Steve's too knowledgeable on, but Mick and I are definitely hot.
Zero idea, to be honest. I'm well out the loop on this one.
Remedy, FBC Firebreak. Out quite soon, out in June. A first-person shooter, 3-player co-op situation set in the Federal Bureau of Control, hence FBC. It's very different for Remedy, and I am here for it, Mick. I like...
I am, yeah. I tell you what, though, I kind of wish it wasn't a multiplayer, because I think
co-op at least.
Yeah, and I do think so. What got me most excited about this game is because anything that comes from the Remedy verse is that gets me quite excited in general, right? And I think the Control. The year it released was my game of the year. Alan Wake 2, I think, was near enough my game of the year when that released. So I love this universe. I love the FBC. I love that because I think I mentioned it before that you guys know what SCP is.
Yeah, it's kind of what the FBC is sort of loosely.
Yeah. So do you know what that is, Steve?
Not a clue.
Right, so this podcast just became 2 hours long. Mick, go for it.
No, I'll be ready for so SCP, it stands for Secure, Contain, Protect, if I recall. And what it is, it's an online resource. Now, it's fantastic. It genuinely is. It's an online resource that's almost like a wiki, where a bunch of members of the public, it's all done by the public, have created this kind of archive of what they call SCPs. And you've got and SCP and then they're numbered. And it goes right, there's thousands. And basically they're just kind of X-Files episodes, right? That's kind of what they are. They just kind of, some of them, they range from the funny to the moving to the genuinely fucked up like stories. And they're anything. And so did you play Control?
I have played about 2/3 of it, and then something shiny came along.
So
don't give me that look.
Fuck's sake, man.
So what are they called in Control?
What?
The anomalies.
God.
AWEs, right? Altered world events.
The actual right, yeah. The world event. I thought you meant the.
These are the dodgy, enemies. Ghostly object situation.
Yeah, so
Well, no, they're more than that. They are like the clues in the name, altered world effect. They are like it can be like so. Alan Wake incident is an AWE.
Yeah.
So it refers to the whole.
Also, AWE, Alan Wake.
Yeah. Yep. And so that's kind of what. And so SCP, that is what I think that Remedy they must have been influenced to an extent by the SCP, right? They kind of had to be because the way the FBC is built in the game is it's very much like the SCP institution in this fictional like metaverse online. So
this is all like fanfic stuff, yeah.
Most of it, like 99% of it, is just pure fan fiction. It's just people have come up with stories, and they produce artwork, they produce little mini videos, they produce student projects. There's all sorts of shit. And some of it's really weird, so I'm not going to go into. But I would suggest anybody who's into that kind of weird, like the stuff that you get in Control or X-Files or Twilight Zone or things like that, Outer Limits. Have a look. If you don't know, if you haven't,
limits, man. I've not thought of that in a long while.
If you haven't, I'd Google SCP, but I'd be prepared because some of it is pretty disturbing, but some of it is really, really good. I had a stint of just reading just thousands of them for a while.
It sounds like a hole to fall into for a weekend.
But the universe that Remedy have built, and I don't know if Max Payne was originally, or if it's something that is tangentially linked.
Haven't they? They've tried to compress it all into that, but I find it a little difficult to believe that it originally was.
Yeah, I do too, to be honest. But I love the universe. I love how weird it is and how strange it is.
What was the Xbox exclusive? I think that was Quantum Break.
Quantum Break.
Quantum Break is in the same universe because I think they've referenced Monarch and things like that.
Alan Wake's referenced in that, isn't it?
Yeah,
because that was one of those first times when you were like, oh, Alan Wake. Yeah, they haven't forgotten.
yeah. But I just think, and like anything set in that universe, I'm interested in, like straight away, like that's got my attention. I like I've watched the gameplay trailers and it looks really good. Like it looks like a really good shooter, and I don't mind a co-op shooter.
Yes, if I'm going to play a multiplayer shooter, that's my shooter of choice.
Exactly.
It seems like maybe they're coming back into fashion, but like it does. I worry for it slightly because we have been here before, fans of this sort of genre where you're like, I mean, you reviewed most of them, Mick, in another life, like Back 4 Blood and all those games and Evolve. Do you know what I mean? Like these, and you're like, this is good, but it just
they die a death. Yeah, I mean, it's a PvE, which is good. I like that because that reminds me a little bit of what was the game we played? Rainbow Six
Extraction.
Extraction, right? So that was a co-op. I know there was an extraction shooter. This isn't an extraction shooter, but it is PvE. It is player versus environment. So you are going to be. It's a co-op, 3-player co-op shooter. So it's not necessarily 3 of you versus 3 random people online. It's not like that because I find that those games don't tend to have legs anymore. Like, you know, when they just throw a new PvP game out and it lasts for like a week, and then extraction shooters now seem to have like a shelf life of a weekend, and then everybody's kind of bored and moved on to.
It needs that, like Marvel Rivals it's got Marvel. Do you know what I mean? It needs. So that's my hope, is that FBC Firebreak has got Remedy. You know what I mean? It's got,
and I hope that they fill it with that Remedy stuff. I
just don't believe they'd make a game where there wasn't like.
Yeah,
I'm thinking of Left 4 Dead, where you have like secret shit, where you take the gnome all the way through the level and stuff.
Yeah. That's what I want.
I can't imagine this not having that. Like, if it doesn't, I would be stunned. Like,
so would I. Because I want weird Remedy shit. I want weird stuff where, you see something and it doesn't make any sense and you look into it, and I want them to layer it. Sam Lake as a writer and what he does with that studio, generally speaking, he layers thing. There's, I mean, it's Easter egg after Easter egg sometimes, and sometimes they're in service of themselves. But
they layer, like you say, it's on top of one on top of another.
Yeah, but fans of that universe love it because that's what we play those games for. I mean, Controls. Yeah, absolutely. So that's what's got me most excited for. I really hope that it's got that Remedy juice.
Like the only, like I said, there's a few things that do worry me. Like I think it isn't a free game, is it? It is a paid product. I don't think it's like a full price one. I really would like to get my hands on this. I think,
but that again,
beta or
with
something.
With a company like Remedy doing a game that's paid and not necessarily free to play, that means that it might have some content in it. Do you know what I mean?
It's not but again, we've seen games that, I mean, not being funny, but Concord. I'm not comparing these two, by the way, at all.
Was that paid? I'm not free to play.
I think that was a full price.
I'm pretty sure that was, because if you remember, they were going to do like Fortnite,
weren't they, straight afterwards?
Of course, good one, Sony.
But I mean, we can't pretend that Concord was a new universe, new characters, blah blah blah. Whereas this, I think that Remedy tend to genuinely care about the sort of narrative and story and stuff, and I almost don't think they're capable of just going, here's a shooter, whatever. I feel like they couldn't just like not fill it with stuff that's.
They want the longevity of it, don't they?
Well, it's not.
And if it's canonical, then that they'll add more to it, and
like that is. It's one I don't think it was actually on the list when we did it on the first part of doing this little sort of aside episode, as it were. But I was thinking about it recently. It's like Remedy are just one of those, like they rarely miss, and it's just a case of, if Remedy have a game, I'm going to play it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I am going to play this.
Yeah,
as a guy who's fallen off shooters for the past few years, that piqued my interest now because of that background.
Well, it's also
that's more interesting to me.
Like, if this was like a I mean, like bad analogy again, but if this was like a Call of Duty style multiplayer shooter, it would be one where I will play it because it's Remedy, but I don't think it's going to work for me because this is a 3-player co-op PvE, as Mick says. It's like I'm in. But
you've got the narrative angle within that, haven't you?
Yeah,
hopefully a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, well, we hope so. Let's stick with shooters though, and we won't talk about this for too long because we don't know enough about it. But Metroid Prime 4 is a game that's not dated, but we know it's coming this year to Switch and Switch 2. I played a little bit of it, and Steve also had a go on it. We used the mouse controls.
Indeed.
It's difficult, like I said, to talk too much about it, but this is definitely coming this year. You know, I've laid hands on this game now to know it exists. Does that make sense?
I think it's one that you took two quite different vibes from as well, because I'm into this, and I'm not the biggest Metroid Prime fan of all time, but I've enjoyed it. What I play, look, I'm just disappointing you left, right, and centre tonight, aren't I, Adam? I can see it in your eyes. I got big Halo vibes from what we played, which was not what I expected to happen at all. You know, you were dropped into a battle full of soldiers. I found that weird
when you were
yeah, it was really odd. I would never have guessed that.
No, I found because you were talking about like the enemies and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but this is from ages ago. Like this is weird.
But it was just the feel of the situation, having this manic battlefield with things kicking off around you, and then huge mecha type sections coming in was not something I associated with Metroid. But it will have.
That's one thing Metroid Prime does so well, is that it will have moments of calm and exploration and puzzles and stuff where there aren't so much enemies and so much going on. Like I'm torn as to whether I believe that is genuinely the intro of the game. They certainly seem to be suggesting it is.
I certainly think it is, man. I think that's going to be the moment where it does the classic rip your power from you, leave you feeling vulnerable. I can see it coming.
You could be right. I literally can't confirm or deny. I don't know. I just have a feeling that they will.
We've got to wait and see. You know,
wait until
speculation being maybe late summer.
I thought August initially. I think later now. Personally, I think September, November time, October.
Yeah,
maybe.
coming towards the fall game.
It was like a November game to me. I would, if I had to bet.
Well, it's more to me that so I know they're going to be putting out their Switch 2 what they call Switch 2 editions of games like Kirby's July, isn't it? And then there'll be other stuff. Like I still have a sneaking suspicion that Xenoblade Chronicles X will get a Switch 2 edition. It just feels like obviously that game only came out this year on Switch, but then if it were a free upgrade, I don't know. But moving,
we just got to wait.
Yeah, it has. And let's say we can't talk too much about it because we just don't know enough about it. Like it looked lovely. It ran brilliantly.
We can reinforce the mouse control do work well.
Yes.
That's one thing we can do from. Again, this was not from my expectations. You know, to me, it would very much be a controller-based game. It was odd for about 20 seconds, and then it felt natural.
Moving back to you, Mick. Wuchang, Fallen Feathers. Now, we have talked about this on the podcast.
We have, yeah. We mentioned it when we got the release date or the gameplay trailer.
It was the gameplay trailer.
Yeah, it was the gameplay trailer that came out, wasn't it?
Because they did a weird thing with the release date, didn't they? Where they were like, "It's summer, but we're not going to tell you when until you watch enough of this trailer." It's 24th of July, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be. It's hard to tell now these days because Souls-like means 9 million different things. Do you know what I mean? Now, there's just that whole. It used to mean a game that was like Dark Souls. Now it just means any game that incorporates any element of From Software's design. And that's anything from combat to parry to dodge. I mean anything. So it's difficult to know what we're going to get. You can obviously tell from the gameplay trailer, like we said before, it looks more in the vein of a Wukong or Wolong than it does like a traditional Souls. It looks really fast. I think it's probably more dodge-centric than it is parry. But the world itself, I don't think looks like anything like that different to what we've had in recent years. Like we've had like Wukong in particular, it seems to share a lot of DNA with, but obviously it's a lot more fantastical because I don't think it's set. I don't know if it's actually set in China or if it's a fantasy world that's like.
It looks fantastical from what
China,
we've seen.
because it is fantastic. Because it's the Fallen Feathers. There's this like magical pandemic or something that's swept the land.
Does this mean anything So set in the land of Shu during the dark and tumultuous late Ming Dynasty. Now the Ming Dynasty obviously a real thing.
That's a real thing. Yeah,
So
I don't know whether the land of
Shu. Let's Google land of Shu.
I don't know whether that's real or if it's a Chinese
Shu
mythological.
is also known as ancient Shu in historiography, which it was an ancient kingdom and it was what known as the Sichuan province. It was based on the Chengdu Plain. Yeah, so I'm glad you did that. It was based on the Chengdu Plain in the western Sichuan Basin with some. This is Wikipedia, by the way, with some extensive northeast to the upper Han River Valley.
I just ancient knowledge out of not wiki.
Ancient China. One of the three kingdoms is called Shu Han. Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, ancient China, Ming Dynasty. So it's
sort of a
Wolong-ish era then. Yeah. So it is, isn't it? That's which
on the
is
Souls-like timeline. It's around about Wolong.
It's around about somewhere between Wolong and yeah. So and Wukong. Because I don't know where Wuchang was, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter, does it? It's ancient China. We know. I think probably we know what to expect to a certain extent. I mean, I always find with Souls-likes nowadays, it's
fast-paced is what I expect.
Fast-paced action game. It looks quick. Yeah. I think it's going to have. I tell you what, it is weirdly nowadays when anyone announces a Souls-like and you get hold of a Souls-like for the first time. The thing that I never know what it's going to be is, or the thing I can never predict is how actually difficult it's going to be, because there's like some of them, like AI Limit that I reviewed earlier this year. I felt like that was a game that they had tried really hard to make hard in a way that felt, sort of artificial sometimes. Like the combat itself isn't that hard, so we'll just make enemies take half your health bar off in a hit, or we'll just make you fight everything on a ledge as narrow as toilet tissue, so you can't help but fall to your death every couple of seconds. And I felt like it did that. And then you had a game like Kazan, which was also a Souls-like, but had like malleable difficulty for a start, so you could lower the difficulty if you wanted to, which made a difference, but still maintained a level of challenge that I think was really balanced that very, very well. And then like last year's Wukong obviously was, I think it was my game of the year if I can recall correctly, but that difficulty was kind of the converse to Lies of P, where I found that in Wukong exploration was very easy, or the exploration was quite tough and the bosses were hard, whereas in Lies of P I found you could stroll through all the levels and the bosses crippled me. And it was like so you never know where they're going to have hit that difficulty balance with a new Souls-like. So going in is always like, right, I'm prepared to get my ass kicked. And then some of them are really clever, like Wukong, where I spent about 5 or 6 hours in Wukong thinking, this is really, really easy. Why am I having such an easy time? And all of a sudden it hit me with a boss that took me like several hours. So you just never know what to expect. But from what I've seen, it looks really fast. It looks really slick. The protagonist looks cool. I like that world anyway. Like I love games set in that sort of period and that with that aesthetic. So yeah, I think it's going to be good.
Something to look out for, man.
Absolutely. Steve, over to you. You've played this, oddly enough, and it feels like a million years ago. Little Nightmares 3.
That seems like
you played it.
Oh yeah, but it was like last year, like a hands-on post Gamescom, I think it was.
Yeah, it was.
Again, what a great universe! What a great
universe. This feels like it's been coming for a very long time, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't have a release date still.
I'm not aware of one as yet. No, that's for sure.
I think I saw a release date. Did I not? The last trailer they released.
It'll be on Steam. It'll be easy to check, but. No, please. Planned release date 2025.
Talk about a game world as well.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go on. Carry on.
I was going to say, talk about a game world that doesn't give anything away. There are lore videos deep diving this world everywhere, because the first game is very fucking bizarre and disturbing. And then there's like a big twist at the end, which I still struggle to make real sense of. My son, I never played either, but I watched my son play both of them quite extensively because he really liked them.
The weirdest thing about this, right, to me, is that the developer behind it is not the team that created the game as such. So it's Bandai Namco is the publisher, and Supermassive Games are developing it, and Supermassive is the Dark Pictures, the Quarry, casting of Frank Stone.
That's strange.
I mean, they've got the dark background ready for it, haven't they?
Yeah, but like it's also not. I suppose it's in their wheelhouse
That suggests more story, possibly more narrative.
Again, I watched Steve play it. It's Little Nightmares.
Yeah, from what we've seen so far, that doesn't seem to be the case. It falls very much in the same genre as it was previously.
It almost feels like, because I guess who did Bandai work with them on a game before? One of those games. I don't think they did they? It almost feels like they just had this developer and they're like, well, you do it. But like, it was Tarsia, wasn't it, before?
Yeah, it was in Tarsia, who are now going on to do Reanimal, which is going to be later this year as well.
So mostly dialogue-free as well,
games are basically going to be playing right off each other.
I think they're entirely dialogue-free.
If I recall, yeah.
But this is co-op, right? Which is interesting.
Yeah, you're going to have co-op in there, so you can get a friend out there and both be scared witless with jump scares left, right, and centre.
Still one of my highlights of last year, watching you literally jump out of your chair playing that, and I'm sat on a sofa just like... And there's other people in the room.
It was one of those ones, even I was aware, it was almost like a Mexican wave of people just popping.
It was a violent shudder. It was violent shuddering, that was.
Oh, man, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's not a lot of surprise from what I've played and seen so far. It's sticking to a tried and tested formula. I've got no qualm with that at all, man. I'd be more than happy for it to follow on in the footsteps of the previous two games. But yeah, having co-op in there is going to be interesting, because I don't know if you're going to lose... Are you going to lose anything having someone with you there all the time, potentially holding your hand?
Horror's difficult.
Going to include something along the lines of having...
You didn't
Horror's
change.
difficult to do co-op, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, but because I'm with you. I thought, well, it's a horror game. Well, a thriller, should we say. It's not really...
they have horror elements, that's for sure.
But you know what I'm saying. It's one of them games, it relies on making you jump and being a bit grotesque in places. But it
Creeping through the dark, man.
You still jumped out your skin in a room of strangers and me behind you. It's not like it was suddenly because there was... I know that wasn't technically co-op, because it does that thing as well where you can play on your own and
swap
it incorporates so you control both or whatever. I don't know. I think it's enjoyable still, so maybe you're scared together. You know what I mean?
I've never been a big horror game fan, but this is one of those that I keep enjoying coming back to. I probably played through both of them 3 times now.
Wow, I've still not.
I just enjoy being in that universe. It's the same idea we were saying about Remedy earlier, like creating this little universe that you just feel comfortable and you want to know more. So,
but you don't like scary games, and yet you like being in this universe. That's what's so strange to me.
Yeah, they're never scary. It is weirdness over scary.
You look scared.
That's just my natural state of being, mate.
It's almost body horror, isn't it? Because there's so many things. Like in the first game where you're in the kitchen and the chef's chopping that meat, and it's like, what is that meat? And then there's that guy with like the gangly legs and the long arms, and like the janitor, whatever he is. And there's a lot of stuff that's hidden that you don't necessarily even pick up on unless you're really. And when you're playing it, you're not looking, so you notice these things. Like I was watching my son playing it, it would be like, go back a minute, go back, I want to see what that was. And there's a lot of stuff. They're very big on visual storytelling because there's very little. I mean, it's called Little Nightmares, and it kind of just feels like that. Like you're just in a nightmare where nothing really quite makes sense.
Well,
there's not really a through line
as well.
Yeah, very much.
Not entirely, but it's definitely got that.
And it's that level of horror, because I know Tim Burton isn't horror, but it is kind of
unsettling, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's comfy horror.
Yeah.
It's what?
It's comfy horror.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It's a Nightmare Before Christmas. That kind of everything's just a little bit off.
You could see why someone watching that would be terrified because of the faces and stuff in the. But like at the same time, you can see why others aren't.
I mean, my wife used to come through and my son was playing it, and she'd look at the screen and go, "Why the hell is he playing this game?" Because it looked grotesque and hideous, and those things are terrifying. She's the responsible
one, you're saying?
Yeah, and he was loving it because he wasn't seeing that. He was just seeing this puzzle or this challenge.
Anyway, this is called Grand Theft Auto, son.
Yeah.
You've seen my parenting then? Yeah, that's what you're taking out from.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. This looks great.
Yeah.
It just seems so weird. I'm surely, like, when we get to Summer Games Fest time, we're going to get a release date, or it's just not coming this year, surely.
There'll be a demo. Surely they'll do it. There'll be a demo.
Well, there's been a playable build of it, like that. Well, you could call a demo for over a year, nearly.
Yep.
So
moving on to... Sorry, go on, Steve.
I was going to say, we'll see soon enough, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, also, same with this one, we'll be seeing soon enough. This is one of mine and Lyle's. Originally, this was on the list for Pokemon Legends ZA. Now, I absolutely adored Arceus. I thought that was the best Pokemon game.
if I remember, you wouldn't shut the fuck up about it.
It might be my favourite Pokemon game, certainly modern era, because it was the first Pokemon game in a long time where they made you feel like you are actually not specifically Ash, but you are, you would. It seems really weird to say this in a Pokemon game, especially to someone who's never played them, that I feel like they would answer this with like, what do you mean? So in this game, you would walk up, crouch down, hold left trigger, and physically throw a ball at a Pokemon to capture it. Mm-hmm. And genuinely, I feel like a non-playing Pokemon fan who's never played a game would be like, what do you mean? That is how you catch a Pokemon. You throw a ball at it, and you're like, yeah, but in every other game, it's like, it's not like this. In this, you sneak around the bushes and actually physically, like a shooter, like left trigger and throw it. And it was such a silly thing, but it was like, this is brilliant. This makes me feel like this is what this game should be. Exactly that. It makes you feel like what it should be. And then you get into all the layers of stuff they added on top of that. And look, I'm not going to beat around the bush. The fact that this is also going to be Switch 2 is like, thank the heavens, because the biggest problem with Pokemon games, and I say this as a fan of the series, by God, they're getting ugly and that's fine, right? Because like we can all appreciate a game that doesn't look the best, but it's just great. You know what I mean? We all know those games.
Gameplay carries it, man. Yeah.
But also they were getting to the point where they didn't look great. They looked a bit ugly, and they were running like arse. Like I was watching my son play one of them the other day. I think it was 2 games ago, maybe. And it's like, this looks so bad. Like, you put the Switch in the dock and it's like, this is still unacceptable how this runs. Like, the frame rate, this is still unacceptable. And even if it was doing like shitloads where there was like 100 Pokemon charging, like a Rhino style Pokemon, charging across behind you, or loads of Ponytars, even then you'll be like, it's still unacceptable. And it wasn't doing that. It was
maybe
just
a little bit
around
of
on a bike.
complacency, knowing how well they're going to sell regardless.
They listen. We all know that the name of Pokemon is bigger than ever, really, in so many ways. It's not gone away. It's still huge. They could shit out anything, and I say that sadly. It's true, and it's true because they have. I reviewed, I think, the last 2, and it was a really good game, and I would have scored it higher, but it ran like ass.
You just needed that bit of extra polish.
My hope is, in a weird way, that basically Game Freak don't know how to optimize, and that basically they won't need to optimize because there's so much more headroom with the Switch 2 that it just kind of runs better by default. It does make me worry a little bit about those who are going to have to play it on Switch 1, but hopefully that won't be me. So do you know what I mean? I'm a little bit like, not my problem, guys. I would like to see it on running on both, but like I just... Yeah, a new Pokemon game on a new generation, you know what I mean? Like, exciting as fucking anything.
What's the big push on this one? What's the big changes?
Do you know what? I've tried to stay away from it a little bit.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because Arceus was so... Like, I was... one of my sons is like a big Pokemon fan, and he plays all of them. Like, so he's one of those, where people like... Oh, what's it called? Where they do like randomizers and stuff. They watch them on Twitch, where it's like... that sort of stuff, like Pokemon randomizers.
What's the term for it, man?
You know what I mean, though. Nuzlocke, yeah, like that sort of stuff. He's a big fan, and I play them all, but not as religiously, so to speak. So when this Arceus came along, it was like, this is game-changingly good. And I'm pretty sure at the time I was one of those people saying, please don't let this be the only one. Don't let this be just this spin-off people remember. Do more of these. So when they announced another Pokemon Legends game, it was like, do you know what? I don't really care if these aren't like the main ones. Like, they're not red, yellow, Pokemon Black. They're not. I don't care, as long as they keep making them. It can be.
They can spread it out enough for everyone, can't they? At this point, and create all these little sidelines.
It can be a side hustle. Do you know what I mean? The Legends series. I don't care. It was so good, and I genuinely had loved it to pieces. And like I say, the fact this is coming to Switch 2, I'm not gonna lie. I have suspicions it might slip a few months into 2026, shall we say? I'm fine with that because I just want it to be... Like I say, my hope is that it's got enough headroom on Switch 2 that it's just like... Do you know what I mean? You put a PS4 game in a PS5 and it's got built-in stuff to just boost it. That's my hope.
Give it a nudge.
So yeah, that I know it's not a game on your lists. I know Lyle will be very excited. I really loved Arceus, and I'm so hopeful for this. And it looked like the last time they released trailers and stuff, it was like there's lots... They are adding lots. There's more.
Well, maybe this could be enough to sway some people in there as well, man.
it's got multiplayer and stuff, I believe, and I don't think Arceus did have. I can't remember now. Anyway,
no asking me.
Yeah, moving on to another game that I'm like really like, and it's also coming to Switch too. Borderlands 4. Now, I know. Before anyone starts, I know all about Randy Pitchford, and I know all that, and I do sort of. If I'm honest, wish they'd stop sort of putting him front and centre of the marketing.
Oh yeah, I wish he'd keep his fucking mouth shut for 5 minutes and just promote the game.
It's never going to happen, mate.
I just wish they'd stop pushing him to the front and centre of the marketing and maybe just market the actual video game. I mean, that's not fair. They have been showing it. Again, it's one of those I kind of know I'll like it because I've liked all the Borderlands games. So I don't want to watch too much of it because I don't want to know the sort of skills and classes. I kind of want to play them and discover them. There's some interesting stuff that, like, Mick, I don't know if you've heard this. There's no minimap.
Yes, I did hear that. Yeah.
There's it's compass based, so there is. Yeah. It's not like you're just like whatever. There's like a compass that will lead you to things, and Pitchford himself said, like, basically, look, I know, judge us once you've played the game, see what we were trying to do, and I'm like, okay, I will, because whatever of him, like the team that makes the Borderlands games, have made games I enjoyed. I'm quite excited because, again, it's the first one that's going to be made for like a newer generation of consoles, and like I've always loved the kind of big bombastic nature of these games and the loot element of it. And it's really weird actually because I went back and played one recently and it looked kind of ropey, and I'm like, wow, I remember this, because the art style of those games kind of lends itself to not aging.
I would have thought the art style carried it through.
The art style in Borderlands hides a multitude of sins, I think, and sometimes if that veneer shifts slightly, which it does sometimes, you do see the cracks.
You see the shimmering, you see the texture that's really jaggy. Like, wow, I didn't realise this.
I think the problem with Borderlands was, because I'm ready for more Borderlands. Like, I can't wait for Borderlands.
Feels like it's been a while, right?
I haven't disliked any of them. I really, really liked Tiny Tina's Wonderland, which I know was a spin-off, but it was Borderlands through and through. And I'm ready for more Borderlands. And I've always been a fan of the Borderlands humour. I know a lot of people turned on it a bit because it is very quippy. It is very quippy humour. It's very sort of... And they went too far in Borderlands 3. The humour in Borderlands 3, I felt missed the mark more often than it hit. But it was still that same. I think what the problem was is they peaked with Handsome Jack, and then they've been chasing that ever since.
Just admit it, you like Claptrap.
I don't like Claptrap.
You don't?
I've never liked Claptrap, and because I tell you what it is about Claptrap.
That's
though.
Because he told me he really liked you, and it's like,
well, I'm charismatic. I like Claptrap to an extent where he's got very funny lines, and he can be very, like, there are bits where normally at the beginning of the game he's your guide, isn't he?
Oh, he's holding your hand, didn't he? Yeah.
And those bits I find are quite funny. After, I always find with Claptrap that I reach a point where, because those games are huge, and I'll play them for 60, 80 hours, and I always find that by the time I've spent that long with the game, it's wearing thin. So I don't think it's anything necessarily down to Claptrap or even the writing. It's just that long with that kind of character that, let's be honest, is kind of designed to rub people a certain way.
Yeah, he's supposed to annoy
you. That's his appeal. So I get a little bit. I do get a little bit.
Hours of it. It's really starting to rub.
Yeah, I do find that. But I love, again though, with Borderlands, the thing that I really, really like about it is, and it's something that people don't really talk about that much, is the universe is really cool. Like, it's a really interesting universe, and I know it's kind of like, we've done the corporations rule the world universe and they're evil stuff a million times, but like the Handsome Jack arc in particular, I really enjoyed. I like the fact that the Borderlands will just kill characters. Like, this is a comedy universe, and it's always a comedy story, but it never shies away from just, and I find that it also doesn't tend to do that just for effect. Like, it usually serves a narrative purpose, like Roland's death, or when they killed Mordecai's pet, what was it called? I can't remember what it's called now off the top of my head, but like, and Tannis, like Professor Tannis was killed at some point during the Borderlands. So they do this thing where they'll suddenly like kill a character, and it's always quite effective. It's always quite an effective moment.
I mean, the universe is good when Telltale make a game on it, and people are like, I love this video game. It's the same as all the other ones you did. Yeah, but this one's such a great story. It's like, yeah.
Because as soon as you move outside of the Pandora and we're just hunting vaults, so you look at the great, and I think if I recall, so there's something.
I think you can planet hop in this one. I want to say.
Yeah, that's it. So that's what I'm thinking. There's a step change in this one where there's more.
It's bigger, I think.
It's a lot bigger. And I think, if I recall, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're leaning more into the RPG side of things.
What do you mean, like character building or like building,
build because build diversity has been getting bigger and bigger in Borderlands for years. But I think I'm sure I read that they're moving more into a kind of, let's drop you into a universe. That's why there's no mini-map. There's a compass, because it's a great big place to just explore. They want you to explore. They want you to build characters specifically in whichever way you want, so that it looks like it's going to be more malleable in terms of like, because I don't think they've revealed all the characters. We've seen a couple of them.
No, but back to the compass stuff. To be honest, as long as you can open the map, which I know still is a thing, and put a ping marker on it and it will let you follow it, I don't think that's an issue. I think the issue with removing a mini-map is if they don't give you any way of following a marker still. Like, I'm trying to think what game did that. Well,
Expedition.
That sort of does that. It gets by on a lot of other things. Like, it's a phenomenal video game, that is. But like, it wouldn't have hurt it to add that.
No.
Like,
the thing about not having a mini map in something like, so Borderlands uses the GPS system to get for you to get around. That's what its mini map does. So you can open up the map and you'd pick a point where you want to go, and then you'd close the map down, and then you would find that you were watching the mini map, not the world. And that's what I think sometimes, because you got that GPS on it, same as the way I used to play Grand Theft Auto, I would just look at the map and I'd be turning corners like I was playing the top-down version in a real little mini-map. I used to do the same with Borderlands and things. So I do like the idea that the compass makes you engage with the world more. Obviously, I hope it's going to have fast travel if these worlds are big. But I always find that fast travel is one of those things that I don't need until I suddenly need it. Like, I'm quite happy at the beginning of any big open world RPG to walk everywhere for about 10 hours. And then it gets to the point where, especially if I'm reviewing, because it gets to a point where I'm like, I've got deadlines, guys. I haven't got time to walk across this map. So, which is what, Dragon's Dogma hit me with quite a lot. Dragon's Dogma 2 last year. And so I do like the idea that there's fast travel as well. But I love it when developers put effort into the world and it makes you want to travel the world. Like, I found that like things like Horizon Forbidden West did that. I didn't always want to fast travel. Sometimes I wanted to jump on the back of something and just ride through that world and keep. And that was like the same with Borderlands, because when you go into a new area, yeah, exactly. You get into a new area and you want to know what's there, especially if there's a bit of fog of war. Give me some fog of war so I can't see what's coming, and that will engage me, for hours.
But then you get the urge constantly just trying to clear that off.
And it makes me want to explore the world. It makes me want to find, what it's hiding from me. And Borderlands does it always has worlds that I want to explore. I'm never tired of it. Like, sometimes the comedy shtick can get a little bit grating, I guess, but the worlds and the combat, I'm always happy to engage with. I don't get bored of that side of things.
Well, moving on to the penultimate game on this list then, Professor Layton and the New World of Steam. That's one of mine, I think.
Oh, God,
can I confess something? I don't even know what Professor Layton is.
So it's a point-and-click game.
I've no idea.
It's a point-and-click game that they came to fame, I would say, Steve, 3DS era? DS, maybe?
DS it was, I think, in my head.
The idea being that they were the static backgrounds, and they were kind of adjacent at the time-ish to the sort of Phoenix Wright style of explore the environment, and you could literally find hint coins and stuff by like touching stuff with the stylus. And the reason that this is so much on my list is because basically it's been forever since we had a new Professor Layton.
And they're puzzle, is it?
It's puzzle. It's a point-and-click puzzle adventure.
In my head, it's kind of brain training adjacent at times as well. It was that big thing on the DS at the same time. So,
yeah, no, I agree. I can see that. My only concern is that Level 5, the developer they delayed at one point. I think was it last year where they just delayed everything. They're like every game they had, they delayed it. And so, like at some point soon, as we record this, Fantasy Life is due out. Like the girl who stopped or stole time. I forget what it's called.
Stole time,
so we'll know if like these delays were for quality or God knows what. But like it doesn't really have any bearing on Professor Layton, because I guess that is like a Switch exclusive, Nintendo exclusive. I presume. I actually don't know. I would assume it is.
My assumption would be, but
Like, it's
That'd
been
be
so
odd on
long.
something else, man.
It would, but like the other thing about it is what I had. One thing I really enjoyed about Nintendo during the Switch era is, so for example, Kirby is an example of this, is that they would put out a new game in a series that's been running for a long time, and people would be like, "Oh, I think I know what to expect." And Breath of the Wild started it. Do you know what I mean? Where you're like, "Yeah, I've played a Zelda game." And you're like, "Oh my god."
No.
Oh wow! And they kind of then Mario Odyssey was another one. Yeah, well, I've played a Mario game. Oh my god! You know, then they kept doing that.
Expectation just getting smashed.
Nintendo games just kept, even Pikmin. When you played the newer Pikmin 4, you're like, wow, it's still a Pikmin game, but like what they did to expand upon it, make it different, more
just
modern.
The scope build, yeah.
Now I know that's Nintendo, but you'd like to think Professor Layton being a Switch or Nintendo series, there might be an element of that, and it has been a long time since the last one, so I'm hopeful that they'll, adjust accordingly.
Go open world.
Well, I don't know what they would do, but that's the thing. That's what I'm saying about what I enjoyed about the Switch era a lot, is that you would go into it going, well, we've had enough of these old franchises go new again, and they've surprised us. What's this one going to do? And that's what I'm looking forward to. I don't know if I'll get it. I don't know. Hopefully, though.
Yeah. And
the last game on our list is Death Stranding 2 on the beach, which I'm going to get shit for, but I'm genuinely excited to play that game because I really like the first one.
Such mixed opinions at times out of it. Throws people about.
He liked Death Stranding. Even I know he liked Death Stranding.
But then at the times he just fucking kicks it into the ground.
I just didn't like some of the writing.
The thing is, Adam, I feel very much the same as Adam does about Kojima as a whole, right? I think he's
the auteur thing. Like, calm down.
Yeah, he's a great author, and he does have a fantastic imagination, and he does make very, very good games. But his writing is the fucking strangest thing.
It can be great.
It needs a better editor, man.
He needs any editor.
It needs someone saying
himself.
No.
You know what I mean?
Like the boss and owner and the director and the writer and the soundtrack supervisor and the, it's difficult to find someone who says no. And I'm not saying, I don't even think he's arrogant. I don't think it is that. I just think people, I don't know, maybe people would just be like, well, this is...
I tell you what I think it is. I think if Kojima gave an editor anything he'd created, they wouldn't know what to take out.
No, like they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know so much it would ruin it and make it generic.
And what's not, and
because
it's
everything he writes
is generic.
I'm not saying he even writes with tangents, but everything he writes has got layers upon layers of things that he understands thoroughly, I'm sure. And if you can't understand it in the moment, tough shit, really, because you're on to the next thing. And he writes with kind of, there's no subtlety to Kojima. Like, people mistake it, I think, for subtlety. It's not subtlety, it's complete obscurity. Like, he doesn't explain stuff really, and when he does, you kind of left going, what? Like, what?
What the hell?
Really? Okay, I guess we just
Death Stranding was a fantastic video game. Really enjoyable video game, and everything I've seen of On the Beach.
I'm just amazing.
I don't like the title because it harks back to the one joke that pushed me across the edge in that original game. But anyway, everything I've seen about this feels like it's been built upon in a way of when you get a game you really love and then it's sequelized and you're like, well, they're probably just going to do more of that, and instead they just build up it. Suddenly they add RPG elements and all this stuff, and you're like, oh god, that's exactly what everything Death Stranding 2 suggested to be. Is that is exactly what I'm hoping for.
I kind of wish they called it Beached. I kind of wish it was called Death Stranding 2 Beached, because it sounds better.
I always end up singing that fucking TV ad theme tune in my head every single time. On the beach, that little woman.
Jesus.
Every time I see it, that's all I fucking hear.
This is on the list because I think it's going to be one of the best games this year. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that in a malicious way. I genuinely think this could be phenomenal.
As well, for worlds or for writing that I sometimes struggle to pass, even as a writer and like a heavy reader, there's some things in Kojima's writing that I just find difficult to fully link together. Like, I can't always follow what he wants. I feel like he wants me to know, but then I always genuinely find that he wrings the performances out of the casts are always phenomenal. And even if I'm not quite fully understanding what's going on, you get the feeling from his direction and his directorial style, and he's kind of got this. You watch the people that work with Kojima, look at how Norman Reedus is with Kojima or Ana de Armas, or people that are going back to his games and are chomping at the bit to go back to his games, because he fucking loves the craft. He loves it, and he loves getting. He's one of those directors that, and even if he was a film director, I think he'd be the same. He's one of those directors that, kind of like Ridley Scott, that is able to just get that performance from people. And sometimes it's not, when you can get a performance like Ridley Scott got from Harrison Ford in Blade Runner, when Harrison Ford didn't want to do half of the dialogue in Blade Runner, and yet it all works really well because Ridley Scott had that kind of auteur touch. And I think that Hideo Kojima does the same. I think he's able to wring that quality out of this mess of stuff that he throws together, and I do think
that's
that
anything coming back, man.
And anything he produces, therefore, makes me a little bit excited to see it and excited to play.
Like I say, I know the joke, long running joke of me not liking it. I really liked Death Stranding. I don't even have a problem with Kojima. The problem I have is with this sort of culture of, if that makes sense, like the fawning defense of it. Sort of, and that's not something, and that's unfair because he's not responsible for that. He just makes the games he wants to make, and that's something I will say. He makes the games he wants to make, unflinchingly so. But like,
that's an auteur, isn't it?
I suppose you're right, yeah. But like, sometimes it's like you can criticize that. That's allowed. It doesn't mean you don't like it. You are allowed to say there's this element, and there's just some elements of Death Stranding 2's writing. Just some. I'm not even saying all of it. I mean, there's some elements of it that even now I don't really understand, and there are some elements of it I really liked, and there are some elements for example, I'm not a huge fan of the putting celebrities in games. Not in terms of like Norman Reedus. I mean, like the people that his mates,
Jeff in there, or
stuff like that. Like, I'm not a huge fan of that. Like that's not there for me.
It still feels kind of weird, doesn't it?
But it's also like I don't actually care. It's not a big enough deal for me to care. Like it's such a small part of the game. I just enjoyed playing that game. I thought it was beautiful visually. The soundtrack was. I tell you what, man's got good taste in music. The soundtrack was next level, and just it was the first game in a long time, and it feels really weird when you consider the distance between the two. In Red Dead, when you first enter Mexico, and the music just starts. Yeah. There's no like, oh, here's a cutscene with the music. It just comes in. So Far Away, was it Gonzalez?
Jose Gonzalez, isn't it?
Yeah, and like it's just done. That's what happens in Death Stranding. Like you're walking along.
There's a moment in Death Stranding.
It's beautiful. It's
like quite near the beginning where I think where the credits come up and there's a bit of the game's happened already.
Yep.
And then you're just walking and all of a sudden you notice that the music's building in the background. And I can't remember what the song is off the top of my head, the title of it, but it's an amazing.
Is it one of the low raw ones?
Yes, I think it's low raw.
And it's an amazing piece of music. It's an amazing song. And it just fits. And that was the point where I was like, I'm in. In now. I want to see what's coming, and I'd already see, because I didn't play Death Stranding until I played the PC version,
the director's cut, wasn't it?
The director's cut. So I reviewed the director's cut. And I thought it was amazing, and I hadn't played because I'm not a huge Kojima fan, so I'm not somebody that sees a Kojima game and gets excited and jumps in like I've got to play it day one. And Death Stranding was something that, not being a massive like Metal Gear fan, I love that universe again, and I love what he's done with it, but it's not. I've never really clicked with those games ever since the old Metal Gear, like back in the day, like Metal Gear 1 and 2.
Metal Gear Solid. What, the original like 8-bit?
Yeah. Those old.
Right.
I played them.
I thought I was weird having Metal Gear 1 and 2, Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 as my favourites.
Yeah, they were the ones that I clicked with, and I played endlessly, and then later I kind of dropped off. And then when I tried, like I couldn't play Phantom Pain. I tried, and I just
I think Phantom Pain's still got some stuff in it that is actually genuinely astonishing from a mechanical point of view.
And it may be, but
I
could never click with the game, and I tried multiple times. So I'd sort of left it alone. But then when Death Stranding came out and I was watching the trailers and I saw all this stuff and I watched a lot of gameplay of it and I watched some Let's Plays of it after it released. And I think Chris White probably reviewed it for us at the time. And I think I probably edited his review. And so I got into it that way and I really liked it. But I never played it myself until I got the PC version. And that moment, like I was talking, where that music kicks in and this world kind of right before you just opens up, and there's this huge world, and this is mine. Like I can go anywhere, and and it had that sense of place that you would normally get from something like an MMO, but there was nobody else there, and that kind of really got my attention, because all of a sudden, this is mine. I can do what I want with this world. I can go anywhere in this world, and you can't. It's very restrictive in its like exploration. Well, for a time, let's say at the beginning of the game, when you first start going out and you can only carry so many packages, and you're tripping over puddles and shit
down that narrative path. For
and it does. But then again, whereas a normal game would be like an RPG, so you start off weak and you gradually get stronger. That the way that Death Stranding deals with that is that you start off, unable to navigate small hills and pebbles without falling over. And then by the end of it, you're constructing massive zip lines. And then you've got that strand element where you've got all these other, you'll go one direction one day and there's nothing there. You've got to build a ladder, or you've got to the next time you come back, somebody's constructed a bridge for you. Or do you know what I mean? And I still haven't seen a game that does that shared world element.
I want to play Death Stranding again. And I'm also thinking about a Phantom Pain PS5 version.
And now I want to try Phantom Pain again and see, because I genuinely
own it still. Phantom Pain has some of the most incredible stealth gameplay, I think, anywhere. Like some of the stuff I don't think's been touched.
Maybe I'll go and play Phantom Pain, and the next time we haven't got a subject to talk about on a podcast, we'll discuss an old game. Best games that we're late to the party for. Yeah.
Well, that's actually a great idea.
Going back to Death Stranding again, man, some of the best things I've seen so far are all the environmental effects and the fact you are having these natural disasters. They look fucking wonderful, man.
And the ghost is such a non-entity as well.
Yeah, but there's a weird dichotomy in that game, isn't there? Because they show in the trailer like the mad shit, these giant ink monsters, and like a dude playing electric guitar, and then you play it and you're just walking around a green field like delivering.
Man in the foothills, just
And the ink monsters, the alien monsters, are such a non-threat. After a certain point in the game, it's just like, the screen's gone funny. I've got to hold my breath and go real slow again, and it's like.
Moments though. They
are tense moments, but once you know how to deal with them, lob a piss grenade or whatever. Once you learn how to deal with them, it's not a game where you don't want to go out into the world. You want to maybe
pandering to the older MGS fans though, to a given degree, expecting.
I mean, if it was, have you seen the latest trailer where there's literally? Metal Gear Solid 3 in it.
Well, this feels like a step further back that way as well, with the amount of combat that we've seen as well. Combat playing a bigger part again.
Kojima panders to Kojima. I think that's what.
That's what I said. He is making the game he wants to make.
It's what he wants. That. He puts that guy at the end that's clearly, a Solid Snake. Version. And then he says, "Well, I needed a character that's going to top Mads Mikkelsen," and it's like I said before, no one tops Mads Mikkelsen except Mads Mikkelsen tomorrow. That's
Cillian Murphy.
But
is that his name?
Well, Cillian Murphy. Yeah.
He's got the eyes and the.
So I do think
Kojima,
it's going to be great. It's going to be good.
It is. And on that note, that is another 8 anticipated games of 2025. We'd love to know yours. If you're watching this on YouTube, just chuck them down in the comments. So, maybe they'll do part 3 and we'll stick your games in the list. There are loads more games coming, let's face it, we could talk about. But that is it for this episode of Loot Level Chat from lootlevelchill.com. Thank you to Steve and to Mick for being here.
Anytime, my dude. Love it.
If you don't know, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/lootlevelchill, where you can find us extra podcast a week, Discord community, behind the scenes stuff, all good fun.
It's where all the cool kids hang out.
It's where all the cool kids come out, and also it's like really important financially. So please, if you can, patreon.com/lootlevelchill, couple of quid a month helps us. Don't know what that was. Just a bit of a Donkey Kong.
I think you do a bit of beatboxing for a second, just to round out
like that. No, it doesn't work anyway if it's on audio. Thanks very much, and we'll speak to you next episode or whenever you choose to listen. Bye bye for now.